Daniel 11:32 is both a powerful promise, but it's also a challenge. And see, it tells us that the people who know their God will be strong and do great exploits. And boy, don't we need that these days? See, we have to understand that the most meaningful, the most impactful things don't come from our abilities, our strategies, from human efforts. Only through faith do we see the truly amazing. And Jude is the smallest book of the Bible. It's literally one chapter, 25 verses. That's it. That's the entire book. But there's some powerful truths here, and there's a challenge for you and I. See, verse 20 tells us that we are to build ourselves up in our most holy faith. So in this series, we're exploring building our faith. Is your faith proactive or reactive? See, by nature, most people's faith is reactive. There's this sense that faith is a bit like an on and off switch. You either have it or you don't, which is not entirely accurate. And so what happens? They're kind of complacent going along through life until life throws something at them. And then they have to fall back on their faith. Now, God never lets anything go to waste. So He will work through that and grow and develop our faith. See, in God's eyes, as we will see, faith is the most valuable thing we have. But what I hope you'll also get through this series is that God has a call on your life. You have a destiny, if you want to call it that. And you won't fulfill that through your abilities. Now, God gave you those abilities and He will use them. But it's only through faith will we fulfill the call, will we fulfill the things that God has prepared beforehand for us. And so we do need to understand that faith is not like a light switch. In fact, we're given a measure of faith. And we're told, in fact, that we can judge ourselves or value ourselves based on how much faith we have, that measure of faith. So we're looking in this series at growing our faith. And over the course of the series, we're going to, in each episode, look at how a hero of the faith, a technique they used when needed. And my hope is that you will begin to be proactive and start to practice these things. Start to see it begin to grow your faith, but also that these would become instinctual. In other words, the reality is life does throw stuff at us. So when life throws something at you, or those challenges that create the best opportunities, are when we're going to need to apply that faith, and that this would be instinctual, that you won't even have to think about it, that rather than react, you will immediately, proactively step into those things that make your faith even stronger. We do understand that first the natural, then the spiritual. And so things we see from the Old Testament, the ways that God's people, His heroes, battled in the natural are how we battle in the spiritual. And David, who was a man after God's own heart. Now, interestingly, he says this twice, in Psalms 18 and in Psalms 144. And in both cases, he starts recounting the amazing things about God. You're my rock, you're my protector, you're my savior, you're my shield. He talks about all of these things, but in both cases, he talks about you are the one that trains my hand for battle. You're the one that strengthens my arm to draw the bow. See, what he's talking about in the natural is the same thing that God does for us in the spiritual, that He does train our hand for war. Spiritually. He strengthens our arm spiritually, but we have to be willing participants in the process. Well, we don't have to be willing, but it's a lot more fun when we're willing than when we just react to it. We also understand that there's a principle that we see repeated over and over. And in Matthew 13:12, now this is talking about understanding, but this same principle we see repeated over and over. And what does it say? It says, he who has. Now, the connotation here is not that you have understanding, but that you desire more, you value it. He who has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. So those who value faith, understanding, etc., what we see is the same principle applied throughout the Bible, that he who values those attributes God gives us will be given more. But it does also go on to say that, and he who has not, in other words, they don't value, they're not desiring that, even what they have will be taken away. So how do we build our faith? Well, first, it starts by simply asking. And it's not that we have to be elaborate. We just come before the Lord, and just like that man who said to Jesus, we saw Jesus commend so many people for their great faith. But I love that reality, the man who says to Jesus, I believe, help my unbelief. It's that humble acknowledgement that we all, no matter where we are in life, we need our faith to grow. We need a stronger faith so that we would see God perform the amazing. We would see him do the amazing. And just like Daniel 11:32 said, that we would be strong and do great exploits.